is working, there's no problem. As soon as there's a problem, everyone looks at you. And so you do all the heavy lifting, but you don't get any of the credit. And so that was a joke that I used to have. But one of the things that I realized is when you play in a band and you play, because I did marching band in high school, where you had, our drum section was 20 people. You had 3 or 4 people playing snare drum, you had 5 people playing the toms, and you had 6 or 7 people playing bass drum, you had people playing cymbals, you had people playing. So even in just the percussion section, you had to understand, forgetting all the other music aspects, just in the rhythm section, you had to realize that your rhythm has to fit in with everyone else's rhythm. So one of the things that we practiced all the time is you never play your full sequence. So if there's a full sequence of rhythm to play, we cut it up into sections. And we had 4 people, one person would play the first, second person would play this, and the practice we did was when all 6 people played, it had to sound like one person playing. So you play one rhythm, next person jumps right in, the next person, next person, next person. And when you first start doing that, it sounds awful because you don't know when to start and when to stop. Next person doesn't know when to start. But when you start practicing, you start synchronizing your mind with what everyone else ends up doing. So for me, playing drums was a very intellectual pursuit, and it was a very physical pursuit. And so what we ended up doing in the bands I was in was distributing the work. We say, okay, we have this much to play. Eventually I as a drummer will play, I will play all of this, but let's chop this up into sections. Let me do section 1, you do section 2, you do section 3, you do section 4. And you just keep looping back and forth, back and forth. And what you realize is every single person has to know when to start and when to stop. So stitching the pieces together meant that you could play as one unit. And so that was the biggest lesson that I had when I played in marching band in school. And that same concept when you play in rock bands and jazz bands is you can trade off your solos, you can trade off your rhythms, especially in a jazz band where you play something and then the bass guitarist jumps right in, continues the same rhythm, and then the lead guitarist jumps right in, and you go back to bass, and you go back to drums. And so the whole concept of playing music for me was all about stitching together rhythm so that a team of 4 or 10 or 20 people can sound like a single person playing it. So that was sort of the background. But what I want to teach you more was control of your limbs. So, okay, guys, sit up. So you can maybe make some space here.
What limbs means?
Limbs, your arms, your legs, your limbs. One, two,
First time I heard this word.
L-I-M-B.
L-I?
Limbs. Limb. This means your
Joints.
your joints.
Joints.
Yeah. No, you're 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 4 limbs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So legs, arms and legs together are considered limbs.
Nice.
So what I wanted to. So you're gonna learn how to play drums with me now.
Okay, you're a drone.
The drones are outside. Okay. We're playing drums.
Okay.
Okay.
The drum.
Drums. Okay. So first, what I want you to do is to understand the rhythm between your right and left hands. So you started playing for 2-3 months.
Yeah.
Now.
I've never played.
You never played. Okay. So very simply, just start. Follow my rhythm. I'm going to stop and you guys continue. And you stop and you continue. Okay. Now, keep going. Okay. Just one hand. Forget your left hand, just your right hand. Keep going. Okay. To feel lead in your second hand. one hand, you keep
Gotta
going.
deal with the cranes and that is next.
Okay, stop for a second. Keep
Camera?
going.
This?
Speed up.
This is a basic beat, right?
Basic beat. He's teaching very basic beats and,
Yep.
and limb control.
Yep.
So keep going in, just keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So Ringo Starr level down.
Oh, come on, Rick. This is beyond Ringo Starr. I grew up listening to Rush, so. Okay, so you see, feel the rhythm. Now what I want you to do is put an accent before beat.
Let's go back.
I want you to clap your hands with the accent. Okay, that's your, now you keep going. Take your right leg and stomp at the same time. Okay? Keep going. We're keeping our beat. You keep going. Okay, so now stop the clapping. Now keep your right foot going. It's not easy. Now start clapping. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Count out loud. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And Ignacy, keep accenting on. Now, once you get the rhythm going, you start bleeding in. We lost the beat. Keep going in. You're keeping our beat now. You keep clapping. And you see. Keep going over and over and over again. And so what happens is now you set down the bass beat, you've now started the accents, and I started the offbeat. And so you're keeping the standard rhythm going, you're accenting that, and I'm accenting off of your accents. So now, you start with a very simple beat, you put in some color, and now you have the accents on top of that color. And so now the three of us are playing physical percussive instruments. Now imagine you are now doing the drums, you're now doing a bass guitar or a keyboard, and I'm doing the guitar. So what ends up happening is the same rhythms, we start playing off of each other, but fundamentally, the two of us are keying off of the drums. And so that's, ultimately,
So the drums are the most important.
they're the foundation. Like I said, if the drummer screws up, everyone knows. So you're gonna participate? You're the audience.
But I need to take care. I will
Take care.
I want to finish this as quickly as possible so I can join in.
Yes.
ensemble.
Roberto maybe.
Roberto, yes. Okay.
So, I'll take a break from this. Actually, this is a little bit time sensitive.
No, take your time, take your time. So now you're starting off just having a beat, okay? Let's try something a little bit slower, okay? So do this. You haven't practiced on drum set, you've just done hand, okay? So let's try something with your feet, okay? Just keep tapping, like in a bass drum kick drum.
He's gonna come in, yeah?
He's gonna stay there.
Alright,
He can stay there too.
alright.
Up to you, up to you. So, let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. With your right hand, follow me. You just keep that going. Just that. Keep that going. Alright, so now stop for 1 second. So now you can get the rhythm going. And now, keep that going. What you're doing now is you're now synchronizing your lower body with your upper body. Now he's keeping the time now. You're keeping time. Speed it up. At some point, okay, let's slow down. Now, what happens in a situation like this is you are trying to keep half the beat, you're keeping the full. Because you're going on 1 and 2, and you're keeping the half beats going. And now, Mohammed, you're going on every single downbeat. So now the roles have been reversed, and you're the one keeping the beat, and you have to improvise on top of that. So what I end up doing when I first started out playing, I did I started out just playing normal hand drums, and then I started getting a drum set, and I had to learn how to use my lower body. And I always had this problem where
Break the whole thing.
whatever I was doing with my upper body, I had to mirror with my lower body.
Easier,
I
just break
couldn't
the whole thing.
be independent. So meaning that whatever I did, I had to do the same with my lower. But over the time, you need to learn to be more independent. And to do that, you want to do things like, you want to start doing triplets. Right now this is all quarter notes, eighth notes, it's all 4/4. And you want to start putting in notes to do 3 at a time. So instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, you want to start going and doing triplets.
That's the
I'm having an extra pair of roaches with me.
So let's work up to that. So right now, I want you both to start with your right foot. Just keep beat. Just keep the beat with your right foot. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And keep that going. And with your right hand, it's actually easier to do it on your leg because you can feel your foot hitting the ground. So just do the same thing. Slow it down a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep that going. Keep going. 1, 2. While you're doing that, take your left hand, put it on your knee. 1, 2. Keep your right hand going. Just don't. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, whatever you're doing with your right hand, do with your left hand too. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Keep going. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. You're getting it. 1, 2, 3. If you keep doing that, you keep doing both hands down. So we're teaching basic rhythms here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So right foot. 1. So keep the beat with your right foot. And right all keep the same beat going. You keep going, I'm gonna keep. 1, 2, 3, 3.
Yeah.
Sweating.
I'm sweating, yes. It's a lot of work.
Drumming is it's not easy.
Because rhythm is fire. Exactly.
We burn within. What?
So, by the way, what is your name?
Reem, R-E-E-M.
Reem. Iman. I'm Sri, and you guys know each. Come in. Yes, yes. No problem. So,
Sri is for Sridhar.
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 Yes. And so what I was explaining was, whenever I played in bands, I've never actually thought of the drumming part as being independent of the bass or the guitar or the singer, because ultimately everybody keys off of the rhythm section, and the drummer has to keep the rhythm going. If the drummer screws up, everybody else screws up. So I'm mentioning it's like, in my day job I used to be CTO, or imagine being the IT person.
Right.
As long as the IT department is working well, nobody knows it exists.
Right.
They only know it exists when the IT department has a problem. The same thing being the drummer. If you do your job, nobody knows you exist. But if you screw up, everyone looks at you because you've thrown off the entire band.
Yeah.
And so, the basics of percussion to me have always, and I've been playing for about 30 years, and for me the basics have always been that whatever happens, you have to keep the rhythm moving forward. And you can do all sorts of fills, you can do all sorts of, crazy things.
Right.
But as long as, physically, I think as long as the lower part of your body
Yes.
is keeping the bass drum going,
Wow. Yeah.
as long as the bass, as long as you have that low frequency beat going, everything else can follow on top. You can make mistakes on the top, but as long as you don't lose the beat on the bottom, you're absolutely okay.
Sorry. Thank you. Thank you.
And so what I started doing was I started playing with my upper body, and then I had to move to my lower body. I'm tired you all.
No, I'm okay. I just wanna.
So somebody can sit there if they want. Are you okay there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And somebody else needs to play on this with me, so. Okay. So what I ended up doing was learning very piece by piece how to control the upper body, how to control the lower body, and how to then mix and match between the two. And so what I wanted to teach everyone was a very simple exercise, which you start with your upper body and then you go down to your lower body. So if you can play on your knees or you can play on here if you want, however, whatever is more convenient for you. Now, are either of you been musicians in the past, or?
Like our son plays the drums and we keep shouting at him.
Your son plays the drums.
And we shouted.
Okay, so now you have no excuse. When you go home, you should sit behind your drums kit. And you should play.
We have a drum set,
Oh, fantastic.
but
Okay.
I've never touched it, I guess.
Yes. Well, what's interesting is the amount of different sounds you can get out of just a single drum, based on where you hit, how you hit, and the combination of multiple hits. So I would encourage you to go and steal the drum time from your son. But what I wanted to do was let's start out with a very, very simple rhythm. Everyone counts in 4/4 time, so 4 beats per unit. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so you want to get one hand moving, then the next hand, and then your feet moving. So you can do it on your knees, wherever, but just go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and keep going. Keep going that. And with your other hand, do just the opposite. Slow it down. Let's start with one hand first. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm gonna keep doing this. When I tell you, we're gonna do the up. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 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 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. See, he's already improvising. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1, 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 2 and 3 and 4. 2, 3, 4. And so the exercise here is you've always got this hand doing the beat.
Yes.
And then,
The metronome.
yeah, this is your metronome. And then once you get into that rhythm, you can then start adding in the offbeat or the upbeat or the and beat. However you want to call it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3. So what I started doing when I was young was starting with a very simple beat, adding in the other half beat, and then switching it back and forth, and then doing the same with my legs. So before we move on to the legs, I want to do this thing one more time so you understand. So we'll do 4 with one hand, then 4 with both hands, and 4 with one hand. We'll basically alternate. So yeah, just keep going until we get into a rhythm. But so I'll start with your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you understand, you always keep this one going. 3, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Stop. So now, let's see if we can do the same thing with our feet.
Oh,
So, we'll do it a little bit slower, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. Right foot. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So this is what your son can do.
I know, he has a double
1,
touch.
2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So it helps actually if you sit up. You need to sit up so that your weight is actually forward. If you're sitting back, it's it's more difficult here. Yeah, if you actually sit forward, then you have more control over your legs. So,
Like exercise.
yes. Yeah. So let's try this again with the legs. We'll do right leg, okay, and then we'll do alternate, and we'll go back to right leg and alternate. Same thing with our hands. So, ready, and 1, 2, 3, 4. It's exercise.
It's hard.
I know. And then now you want to combine both what you're doing in the top body and the bottom body.
But you said you have to keep the rhythm in your lower body.
Well, you keep it in the lower body, but you don't have to keep the same beat. But you have to keep the same rhythm, meaning the same beat is one thing, but you have the same time signature, so you keep the same rhythm. But when I started off playing, I always kept my right foot always going on the beat. And then I would play more fancy things with my upper body. So, but then you exchange and interweave. You then move what you do on the bottom body up to the top and bottom and the top and bottom. So just comes with a lot of practice. But the idea is the same. The beat is the same, and after a while, you are able to transfer the beat from this leg to this leg to this arm to this arm. So you're playing the same rhythm, but you're playing with different parts of the body. But it's the same thing as what we did now. Remember we did it with the hands, alternate, we did it with the feet. Well, you can actually alternate from your hands down to your feet, back to your hands. And that becomes a very mathematical computation. So you're always keeping the same timing going, the same rhythm and the same beat. You're now moving the action from one part of the body to the other. So we can try something very simple. You're looking at me like
Yeah,
crazy.
I mean, no, but it's,
So let's do just the hand and the foot, okay? Just the right hand and the right foot.
Higher chair.
Yeah, it's better if you're actually on a higher chair. That's why. If you're sitting too low, then it becomes a little bit more difficult. And at the end of this, I want to show you a really cool app that turns any surface into a drum. So, what's actually very interesting is, it's very easy, is if you have your right hand and your right foot, because whatever you do on your foot you can feel, it's easier to keep everything in one hand. So let's just do alternate. Let's go foot, hand, foot, hand, foot, hand, foot, one, so start over. One, two, three, four. Just to keep on the foot going. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, It's not easy, is it?
It's not.
It's not.
You.
And what, can you tell us more about the philosophy, sort of the, of drumming? The, what do you call it, the, what's the word for it? The
Basics or.
the Zen,
The Zen part of it.
like the Zen of the book of motorcycle maintenance?
Yes.
The Zen of
The
drumming?
Zen of drumming. Well,
Why do people drum? How?
it actually originally was a form of communication across very long distances.
Yep.
And it was a form of communicating, you're arriving or you're leaving. It was a form of almost messaging way back in the tribal days.
Yep.
And then because so much of historical knowledge was passed down in the form of stories and verbal communication,
Yep.
dance became a really important part of tribal knowledge.
Yep.
And dance, of course, requires rhythm.
Yeah.
And so drumming became the first musical instrument because it was such an easy instrument, it was this easy sound to produce. You just hit things. You hit things with sticks and stones.
Yep.
And if you look at the historical evolution of percussion, it was all centered around communication, whether it's communication across distances or communication of tribal knowledge through dance and song. And so what ended up happening was music started out as hand percussion. So you would hit things, you would hit hand drums, and then it evolved into, if you needed to do things long distance, you needed a larger volume. So therefore you couldn't do hand drumming, you had to actually hit it with sticks. So now you have stick and impact-based drumming. And like you see a lot of this in Africa, very, very tribal, when you think about tribal rhythms, it all came out of communication between tribes, communication within tribes. And myself, my background, my parents are from India. And in Indian music, what you end up having is you started getting musical notes with percussive instruments. A lot of African drumming is not so much musical notes, it's fixed drums with different tones. So you had one drum that had a low tone. You had one drum, or a group of people that play the low tones, a group of people who play the mid tones, and a group who play the high tones.
Yep.
Whereas what you started seeing in India, you had one person, one drum, making multiple tones, multiple frequencies of sound. So
Being able to stretch.
yes, stretch and
and
press.
press.
Yes.
So you have the two,
Yeah.
the drumming and changing
And the changing, yeah.
yeah.
And so that, and even there's a drum called the tabla, which is two separate drums. One is a lower frequency one is a higher frequency. But the higher frequency one actually has a head within a head. It has two regions, where each region was a different material. So it was still leather, but it was treated differently. So you had a very hard section and a slightly looser section. So the original percussion instrument ended up being a melodic instrument because of the different tonalities of the surfaces. And then you kind of carry that through, and then you see later on in Africa they had this thing called the talking drum, where you had a head on both sides of the cylinder, but the cylinder was not straight. It came in like this.
Yeah.
And along the sides you had strings that tied the two heads together. And because the interior was this shape, the tighter you squeezed, the tighter the heads were pulled. So you could actually hit something while it was reverberating, you squeeze and the heads became tighter and the pitch became higher.
Yeah.
So what was traditionally a static, simple, single tonal instrument ended up becoming a melodic instrument. So for me, the background of percussion, the piano is a percussion instrument, which very few people realize because it is a percussion instrument. The piano, when you hit and you play, the hammers hit the strings, so it's a percussive instrument.
Well, you could say a guitar is a percussion instrument.
Only if you know how to play it that way. But let me show you a very interesting.
Do any animals produce percussion music?
The question of whether human beings are the only ones to do music is.
Well, that's whales do music, so I mean that's right.
Yeah, well, it's a form of communication. We would call that music.
Yeah.
Because we hear it as music.
It has rhythm,
Mm.
and let's see, whale songs have rhythm and they have structure.
They do have structure, yeah.
Yeah, and they have like nine
Octaves?
sorry, what would you call them?
Octaves? Like
Oc-
nine?
Yeah, nine segments
Exactly.
to their song, which they repeat constantly and communicate and identify themselves. But they change the ninth partiture, or whatever, every year. At least the humpbacks do.
Oh, very cool. I had no idea.
And their songs have rhythm and structure. And
They change only the ninth?
Yep. Apparently humpbacks, each community changes the ninth in a different way. The humpback songs are I haven't heard them all, but I understand the humpback songs are all nine partitures or segments. And they vary, and the first eight are the same, they vary the last, and they change it every year.
Right. So it's a method of communicating over the course of many years.
Yep.
So that's interesting. I never knew that. I knew that whale songs and even dolphins have very, very defined structures, but
Yeah. But it's musical, you know, it's
Yeah.
musical in nature. And as you say, we may well have initially produced music to communicate. Something that was musical without our intending to produce
Yeah.
music.
well, the structure behind it communicates some information.
Yeah.
And that to me is the basis of any music, is to communicate something, whether it's
Yeah.
emotion, whether
Yeah.
it's, you can, that's why jazz is so interesting, is even without any lyrics, you can create an emotional response
Yeah.
to sound.
Do you know the problem that when you do not have the rhythm, I mean, you feel angry or something like, I mean, like it's something that we need. We need that rhythm, like in our lives.
Even if you don't understand the music,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, but when
Yeah.
somebody goes out of the rhythm, like you say,
You hear it.
You hear it, yes. And that was a whole, that's the theory behind, each frequency on the keyboard has a particular frequency. I think concert A is what, 440 hertz or something like that. But if the frequency is off by a little bit, you hear it. You hear it, you know that something is not
and,
right.
and
So
you're
obvious-
nervous, like it makes you sad, or it makes you.
Well, that's the basis of the major keys versus the minor keys, is that you have a series of frequencies which make you sad, and a series of frequencies that make you happy, and how you play something in a minor key, it's depressing. You play something in a major key, it's happy. And so those are, somehow, those have been encoded into our psyche.
Amazing.
But I want to show you this really cool app, and I unfortunately don't have speakers that are loud enough. But if you can put headphones in, so you can select a different instruments, and it reads the microphone, so you can actually turn any surface into a drum. Actually, if you plug it in, you can listen to it. Oh, yeah, you can play.
So it transforms the sound that you do here
It
It captures it?
Yeah, and turns it into,
to regular drum sound.
yeah.
But
Can you hear it?
no, not really. Maybe it's a matter of volume or.
You choose the name of the application.
Can you hear it now?
Wow.
So the different sounds.
Really?
Wow.
It's pretty cool, isn't it?
It's continuing to produce percussion.
No, just because
What's-
it's picking up the noise from the microphone.
What's
That's
the
why.
name of this app?
It's called Impactor. IMPAKTOR.
Oh, you don't hear anything without the.
It needs it's.
You wanna try?
Yeah, try it with the headphone because it uses the microphone. It doesn't.
Oh,
You can't.
oh, wow. Wow, this is a snare.
Yeah.
Is it free?
Yeah. No, like $2.
Is it available for BlackBerry or only Apple?
Android, probably. I don't know. I'll show you what it is. It turns any surface into a drum.
Very nice.
Can you try it?
Yeah, yeah.
So you understand. It's pretty cool.
Wait,
Yeah.
You have it, right?
Right. Metal drums, steel drums.
Oh,
it's
Tabla.
tabla, yeah. You can do snare drum.
And without the, can you see what it sounds like without the?
Without the headphones?
Yeah.
It does.
Can you connect it to some
Yeah, you can have the speakers.
plastic?
Yeah, yeah, but the problem is, if it plays
Yeah.
the sound, then you're gonna get
Yeah.
feedback. That's why they,
Yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah, but if we connect it to
Yeah,
speakers, we can play it.
But snare you can hear.
So this could be almost a new form of music.
It's a collaboration, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It just picks up the sound.
Yeah, but I mean, it's also a new,
Gonna listen to it?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
it could be like, yeah, you know, a typing type of
Like
Touch the
percussion.
harder.
Is it an app or?
Yeah, it's an app.
Yes.
And can you do it like with a piano or?
Yeah, there's other notes.
This is only for iPhone.
I don't know. I only have an iPhone. But you can get other musical sounds, but you need to pay for them.
Really, you already pay for it.
I paid like $2 or something for it. But it turns any surface into a drum.
Yeah.
Interesting. Metallic. Wow. What's the name?
Impactor.
Impactor.
I'll show you this.
Is like this going?
No, hang on. Let me show you. There you go. It's this one. Impactor. It's that first one. Impactor.
This is your app?
No, no,
I'm kidding.
No.
Okay.
I'll borrow it for my kids, so.
It's this first app there.
So-
called Impactor.
Okay.
So who gives the rhythm in a company?
In a company,
Yeah, the CTO?
the CEO is the conductor.
Right. And who's the
Heavy
like
lifter?
you know like if the band
Yeah.
do not follow the, as you said the band is a group of people, each one can do whatever he wants,
So,
but there's the drummer who keeps the
in the days of big band jazz, in the
Right.
20s and 30s, the big band jazz like Buddy Rich band, all these traditional big band jazz, the drummer was the conductor. The drummer was the band
wow.
leader, and it makes
The
sense.
drummer,
The
yeah.
drummer was the band leader because Buddy Rich is a very very famous jazz musician, and he was the drummer. And the drummer is the one who was the band leader. Everyone followed the drummer because you can lead the whole band through the sound of the drum because you are a single person.
Yes.
Whereas if you were doing trumpet or flute or something else, you had multiple people. So it was very difficult for the musical instruments, the tonal instruments, to be the lead. Now it's different because now you have the rock music where the guitarist and the singer is the lead. But in big band jazz back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, something like that, the drummer was always the band leader.
Uh-huh.
And that's why when you had the drum, you had the big bass drum, and you see the initials of the drummer on the bass drum.
Right.
It was always the Buddy Rich band, Gene Krupa band. They were the ones who were originally the conductors. So I always joked that, in my previous two companies, I was a CTO. And I always joked that being the CTO is like being the drummer. Because you did all the heavy lifting. If you did your job correctly, no one knew you existed.
Right.
But if you screwed up, the entire company
So the CTO is
the drummer. That's
He gives the rhythm.
he gives the rhythm, or she.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, they give the rhythm.
Yeah.
So that was my short lesson.
That's beautiful.
Yep, very nice.
Yes.
I wish you by email something that was a little bit time
Great.
sensitive and related to a company where you may be exposed to.
I look forward to that.